Welcome to my YouTube channel, Dennis the Monk. I'm Dennis Vyzhakovsky and delighted to be here with you today. Our topic is faith and PTSD. Interesting enough, I'm sharing this from my own personal experience, and this is what happened. Uh, about in 2010, I developed a technology to help my monastery uh, financially support itself. And when I was going to launch my products, and they launched theirs 2 weeks before I launched mine, and I lost the ability to get into a whatchamacallit, to get into an industry that's pretty saturated, the cosmetic industry. So during this time when that happened, became a real struggle where I almost lost everything. So let me back up a little bit. A year and a half prior to that, the Associated Press wrote an article on me and the story of developing this anti-aging wrinkle cream for my monastery to support it and to support our mission to serve the poor and marginalized. So when that article hit the news outlets, it went viral and global. So I was getting phone calls and sales from all over the world, New England, North America, well, Canada, Europe, etc. Understanding now the value of what I had, I took the product as this little tube. We sold $250,000 worth of product within 2 weeks from this story going viral. And I took that product and created a 5 SKU product line: eye cream, day cream, night cream, cleanser and toner in this beautiful packaging. And I was going to launch it through a magazine called Women's Wear Daily. I was slated for the front cover of that paper, and which is an industry icon. And 2 weeks before I was launching my product, for it to enter the fashion world, this company stole it, took my cover story, and I lost everything. Talking about it now, I'm getting a little stressed, perhaps even turning a little bit red because of the effect that had on me. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because the theme of this talk is faith and PTSD. And my story has had a dramatic effect on my life, this particular story. Only recently, I've been experiencing stress, a lot of stress, and being triggered. We're in the process of this lawsuit. I'm getting emails from my attorneys. We have a scheduled pre-trial hearing, and then a trial. And with each conversation, each email, particularly when I found out that we had trial dates, I started to go into a panic attack. It was really difficult. And I don't know if you know about panic attack, but when we have some type of trauma and it's triggered, we'll have a biological response where we start breathing shallow breathing, tingling down the arms, and oftentimes it resembles a heart attack. That's what I was beginning to experience. And I had to withdraw and try to figure out what's going on. And I went to see my doctor, come to understand I'm struggling with PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress syndrome. What that means is that when we have trauma in our past, and as we get older and that past, it's behind us, there can be things that trigger us. They remind us of the past experience. But it's not just the memory of the past experience, it's the emotional reaction to that past experience. And when this happened, I almost lost my monastery. I couldn't pay the mortgage for 4 years. I was blessed to have a banker that was wonderful, but 4 years every month being afraid that I can't do it, can't pay it. What's going to happen? Am I going to lose my sanctuary? Am I going to lose the very place that breathes life into me? And it was extraordinarily painful. At times I didn't have money for food. At times my electricity was going to be shut off. So there was a lot of trauma going through this. Now, I want to let you know that it was my faith, believing that God has my back, believing that God will help me. And at that time, I was also struggling with the thought, will God abandon me? Because my whole life was based on God and how God helps me and blesses me, how God brings into my path opportunities, possibilities, and I lived and thrived on that experience of God in my life. While at the same time, these awful things began to unfold. I lost property that we had slated for a spiritual life center, a non-denominational spiritual life center. I had to sell that to pay off one mortgage that I used to pay for the product that I had now stocked on my shelves because I couldn't sell it because of what this company did. So at the end of the day, what I want to share with you is I want to share that just because we believe in God or a higher power or the universal principles, realize this, that it's a must, we have to be human in order for God or the universe to collaborate to make our dreams come true. We have to walk through our life of brokenness, our life of challenges, our life of pain. And it's what we do in those moments and that determines how we come out of it. And the more that we practice and apply those universal principles that I talk about, and the universal principle of giving and receiving, and I mean, there's a list of them. You can see my other YouTube presentations that explain them. When we begin to participate in those universal principles, we begin to know things for certain. For example, my fear through those whole 4 years was I put my whole life in God's hands. Will God abandon me and take this away from me? And I didn't know how I could survive without the sanctuary of my home, particularly the sanctuary of my chapel. That was me. That was my experience. And over again, as another month came and I couldn't pay the mortgage, I came to understand slowly but surely God had my back. I began to realize that God will never abandon me. I began to understand that when I go through trials and tribulations and challenges, it's like a boot camp. Doesn't mean I'm not going to come out bruised, maybe broken bone or a broken something, but I'm going to come out stronger. My journey that I went through from 2008 when I got this technology to now has made me stronger. I'm able to understand and see things differently. I'm able to not have fear or concern about certain things that are out of my control. And if it's out of my control, then it has to be in God's hands. I've learned all these things while at the same time going through that journey. That part of my journey was so painful. It penetrated deep into my mind, into my being as trauma. And that trauma is still being triggered because I'm in the middle of this lawsuit. Now, the gift is, that's what it's like to be human. The gift is to be human is to be holy. The gift is when we allow ourselves to truly embrace who we are, where we are, regardless of what society says, regardless of what the lies people tell us, for us to know the truth about ourselves, and then begin slowly, to the degree that we can, express it, embrace it, and let it be. We learn to be fearless, to be who we are. We develop these core values and principles that we know are foundations and they don't change. Like truth always works. The truth will set us free. There's all these principles, but when we apply them in the right context, mind you, they work for us. We work them, and then when we go through experiences where we're overwhelmed, they work for us because that boot camp has trained us. It's trained our mind, our heart, and our spirit on how to respond instead of reacting to the things around us. It doesn't necessarily make the journey easier, but what it does do is it gives us peace in the midst of the pain and sorrow. It gives us a sense of understanding that there's a reason and a purpose for why we're going through what we're going through, particularly when we're choosing to be honest, upfront, candid with ourselves and with others. When wrapping this up now, when we talk about relationship, our relationship first has to be with ourselves in this truthfulness. It is imperative, it's essential, it's really important that we also have relationships with other people, particularly those with whom we can share truly who we are, that we can hide, not have a need to hide secrets from them, because the secrets are what control us. They have control over us, but when we share them with someone, get them out of ourselves, out of here, then it frees us to truly be more centered, to come into the person that we're meant to be, in union with God or the universe or high power, whatever you want to call that experience. But it brings us to a center where we can now go through a journey that is powerful and we can have impact in the lives of other people. Thank you for joining me on Dennis the Monk. My dog just walked in the other room, distracted me, but nonetheless, thank you for joining me. You can see me on Instagram, Dennis the Monk, also on Twitter. And thank you for joining me. And I'll be back next week on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Looking forward to seeing you. For now, have a great week.